Welcome. I'm Lois Ephraim. I'm Chief Creative Officer of More, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you about breakthrough creative in troubling times. And so we decided that instead of talking about the unprecedented, challenging times we've had, we'll just call these times troubling. Each of us in so many nonprofits have had to figure out how to navigate through these waters. And what we wanted to do is bring together some of the agencies from the More group to share with you some of the great work that has happened as a result of some disasters that have occurred and how we were able to pivot and produce some amazing creative. So today what I wanted to talk to you about is we'll present 5 case studies here calling Responding in Real Time with the Durham Rescue Mission digital campaign, and also speak about the importance of storytelling with a case from the March of Dimes, and engaging donors. We've got an innovative package design that we wanted to share with you for AMVETS, and we wanted to share a cross-channel integration case from Paralyzed Veterans of America. And lastly, Innovative Solutions, how Toys for Tots, an organization that just funds around Christmas time, was able to pivot and produce some amazing creative during COVID and actually during the summertime. But I'm presenting today, but I am actually joined by creative directors from several of our agencies. We have Chuck Lowenson and Julie Dixon from CDR Fundraising Group. You've renowned for their work. We have Caitlin Schmeiser from Barton Cotton joining us today. We also have Dom Spinoza from CDR Fundraising Group, who is nursing a broken foot, I believe. He's not on camera, but we know you're there, Dom. So as we go through these cases today, please let us know if you have some questions, because my fellow creative geniuses will be willing and able to answer any questions you have. So it's really exciting for us to be here. I also am putting in First Degree, TCM Creative, and DDTV. These are also our partners who were very much involved in the cross-channel communication campaigns that we've done. So the first case I wanted to talk about was Durham Rescue Mission. I'm calling this the real-time response. Now, for some of you who have done fundraising for missions, you know that this has been an extremely difficult time. These folks are some of those who are most at risk, and it was imperative that we got the message out to donors immediately about how they were helping the homeless. In fact, a lot of the missions could no longer take homeless people. They could not practice social distancing, didn't have PPE, they weren't able to cope. And so what did Durham Rescue Mission do during this time? Well, we realized that this is a CDR fundraising group. They had to respond quickly with a COVID-focused awareness email with a soft ask and also a forward feature. And I don't know how many of you are doing the forward an email to a friend, but they did it beautifully. And then they created a follow-up COVID-focused multi-email campaign with a hard ask and a custom landing page. What I think we've all learned too is the importance of keeping with the existing campaigns. You don't want to wipe any of them out, but where do you work in the messaging that makes it relevant to the donor? And then they also conceptualized and launched Giving Tuesday Now campaigns, which I'm sure everybody did on May 5th. And they did it for Durham Rescue Mission as well as other missions across the United States with great success. Now I'm showing you this calendar so that you can see the cadence of the communications and the increase in income throughout the month. So you see here at the beginning of March, the first emails that were going out. This was just Durham's Easter meal ticket successful campaign for them. And then right here is this plain text coronavirus awareness email. And I don't know about you folks, but with the missions, they've seen great success with a from the desk of the CEO plain text email. That was followed by Easter meal tickets, emails, working in the COVID messaging, a newsletter, and then bam, what do we have here? We have a match. When I asked the folks, how did you come up with a match? I know people are always saying, how do you get the matching? gifts. And what they did is they had so many people calling the mission saying, what can I do to help? And they said, well, here's something you can do to help. Can you donate money, and can we use your money, your donation, as a challenge? And people said, absolutely. So they used that as a match. And then for Giving Tuesday, they had a series of 6 mailings, like many of you did. And then they went back to some of their tried and true appeals. So this was a lot more email communication happening. But in this case, these folks were at the front lines. They had a very relevant, hot message to get out to the community. Now, I think this was interesting because this was an awareness email. So this was just basically saying, here's what's happening to the homeless population. Here's how many people we're sheltering. You know, we thank the Lord that we're able to help these folks, but we're sanitizing, we're making everything clean. So it's basically saying, here's how we're providing a service, but look at right here. Share this need with your family and friends. Isn't that interesting? So you could actually forward this message to a friend. And what they did see is they brought on a lot of new donors through these campaigns. And a lot of it had to do with the sharing of the message. Now, the match email, again, it's not a fancy email. This is pretty basic. And right here, we have the spread, we have the challenges, what is going to be anticipated for our needs. And then here, thanks to an anonymous donor, every dollar you give will be matched up to $10,000. Matched dollar for dollar. So you just can't go wrong when you put a match in there. And again, it was a small match. It was $10,000, but it certainly motivated donors. And then here we see a light box that they had, and they actually developed this template for a landing page. This was not their typical template. Very simple, clean form with the buttons. And then you see the urgent COVID messaging that was here in the sidebar. And they used this throughout the campaign, both for Giving Tuesday and for their COVID emails. And you can see that during this time with the emails, they got 500 donations, revenue of $74,000, which was a lot of revenue for this mission. For Giving Tuesday, they created a look. They had a hero image for the mission. Now, as many of us know, we want to get images. We're thinking, how can we get images of people wearing masks? What they did, to be honest with you, is they actually photoshopped the mask on this client. And then he was the hero, and the light box and all the Giving Tuesday emails and on the landing page. And you'll see that the messaging is, our clients are counting on us and we believe in you. So it's a very inspiring message, and you'll see that throughout all the cases that we're talking about, is we needed to be empathetic with people. We needed to show that we understand their situation and encourage them during these times when things seem pretty dire. And with a series of emails, you know, the emails were conversational. You know, it's hard to believe that 2 months ago our lives were yet to be impacted by words that are now on our tongues every day. COVID-19. Coronavirus, the virus. You know, 2 months ago, we were happy flu season was coming to an end and spring was blossoming. That feels so long ago. So it gets into, it's, you know, it's conversational because you're getting one email after another, and every nonprofit out there is hitting you with COVID-19 messaging. So you got to talk to these people like you know them. And then, of course, we get into the urgency, is that the amount of funds that we're going to be lacking. Our needs are going up, but we really need your support. So in this campaign with Giving Tuesday, we saw the donations exceed $30,000, which is actually more than the year-end giving for this mission. Again, it's a smaller mission, but if you look at the 2019 to 2020 difference in donations, they were up 224% in donations, and revenue up 204%. And as I said earlier, they got quite a few new donors on board because of these campaigns. So this is, again, this is an instance of somebody who's on the front lines and got to get out with digital fundraising. But, you know, the interesting thing is, does it always work? And you know what happened? With some clients, they got on board a little bit late. And we have to say that if you miss the boat, you just can't get on the boat again. So some of the same messaging that was working in mid-March, early April was not working anymore in May. So throughout, you're going to hear, beware of the fatigue. We're seeing it now in the market. You know, you're seeing, oh my gosh, if they say challenging times one more time, I'm going to scream. But what can we do to make the story relevant? That brings me to the March of Dimes. And this is Caitlin at Barton Cotton worked on this campaign. And this really has to do with the impact of storytelling. Yes, there's urgency, but what is the greater story that we're trying to tell? So March of Dimes leads the way for fight for the health of all moms and babies, but they had these two challenges. A significant portion of their funding comes from the walks, and those walks were moved to virtual events. And there are many, many of us who know this, that it was catastrophic for some organizations where up to some organizations, 50% of the income comes from walks or events. And then the effects of the virus were not yet known for moms and babies. We had no idea if they were more at risk or not more at risk. So, and we all knew that there needed to be research to find a cure. So we needed to find immediate donor support and explain what March of Dimes was doing as part of the solution. Again, we were doing this very, very, very rapidly. So we created an emergency appeal like many of you did. And we created the Support the Mom and Baby COVID-19 Intervention and Support Fund today, which I know is a mouthful. We always like to make it shorter, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So what we were asking donors to do is support the research needed in the race to find the cure, allow us to continue our life-saving work, and provide moms and babies the support they need because they're still going into NICU. The one thing about March of Dimes is March of Dimes funded the research that found the cure for polio. So that was an important message. If in fact we help find the cure for polio, could we in fact help find the cure for the vaccine for coronavirus? So we actually developed an emergency appeal in a short period of time that really promoted this offer. So if you look at the appeal, yes, we've seen these templates. The important thing is you need to get out the door, right? With an arresting envelope, an emergency appeal. And what was really distinctive here is it's moms and babies are at risk from COVID-19 and support our emergency efforts. And we localized it. So moms and babies in your state are at risk. We had empathy at the very beginning. I hope you and your family are taking care of each other and doing well during this challenging time. Do not start asking unless you just, first of all, acknowledge that they're having a really tough time. If we talked about the importance of giving to this fund, and then on the back, we actually used the space to talk about what the fund really was going to do. You can't raise money for something and not really state exactly what's going to be accomplished with your gift. But it had an emergency feel. And, in the copy, it just says, as I write, pregnant women are preparing to give birth and they're fearful of what lies ahead in our overburdened hospitals. And we know moms and babies are at a higher risk of becoming sick and not getting the help they need. Babies are in NICU right now. We don't know yet the effects of the virus. Our nation's moms and babies need our help and your support now. So we talk about how we establish the fund. So it's like, what is relevant? Moms and babies, babies aren't going to wait, okay? And they can't wait, and we can't wait to help them. So this appeal was mailed to 0 to 24-month donors, 10+ donors. The average gift was very high, $30 for an emergency appeal. So the overall gross was over $407,000, and the net revenue just over $235,000, which was really very good. An extra appeal put into the stream. Now, we all believe that a lift note would be really great to put in, right? Everybody thinks just putting a little yellow lift note in it. I'm sure if I asked for a show of hands, people would say, yes, my clients are doing that. So we put in this, somebody raised their hand. So we put together this insert. But as we step back, and Caitlin, we all do this, right? We looked at it and went, oh my gosh, there's so much going on in this insert. It's the coronavirus, and we're taking action, and please help, and here's the fund, and our nation's moms need you, and then all this information in the back. And so you gotta go, our thinking is usually a buck slip always helps, but in this case, I gotta tell you, it didn't help. So the impact was that the response was suppressed by 67%, and the average gift went down by 3.5%. So this really reinforced the need for effective storytelling. So we thought, we got that emergency appeal out the door. That buck slip didn't work. And again, it was in this case, and we feel that if we had done more storytelling in that buck slip, it might have been more successful. We thought, what are we going to do with the continuing story? Well, their story was that moms are still giving birth, and that we know that stress contributes to preterm birth, which contributes to death. So moms giving birth are at risk. They're fearful. They can't see their family and friends. They don't have the support they need. We thought we needed to have a story. We needed to have a first person account from a mom who was going through this. And so, you know, where we looked to our client, March of Dimes. And there was a woman on staff, Susan Lees, who gave birth to twins in March, in the middle of the pandemic. And we were able to do a Zoom interview with her where she shared the fear, the anxiety that she was experiencing, and she gave birth to her twins at 25 weeks. So they were extremely premature. So the envelope of this case was, the teaser said, I went into labor with my twins 3 months too soon. I was terrified. But you know, it's not just all need. We have this secondary header here that says inside a special note of thanks from a mom who gave birth during COVID-19. So it isn't just about urgent need. Is, oh my goodness, March of Dimes is actually doing something tangible to help these moms. So we had her story in there, we had her photo in there. And the open says, you know, the most exciting moment for a mom is learning that she's finally going to have the baby she's been longing for. And the most terrifying one is giving birth during a pandemic. And Susan is one of those moms, you know. She had decorated the nursery at home, encouraged by the doctor's news that their babies were healthy, and then the pandemic hit. And she felt isolated and afraid, unable to see family or even to go to birthing classes. I was so scared of what would happen to the babies if I were to get sick. Well, in fact, she was standing in line at Target buying toilet paper when she went into labor. So she was, you know, this is not what they expected at all. And so she talked about how scared she was, and then what March of Dimes did to help. So we actually felt that the story was so strong that we wanted to put a lift note in from her. So we have, you know, her writing, the day my husband Matt and I found out we were pregnant with twins, we were thrilled. We've been trying to get pregnant for years. But when COVID hit, I felt isolated and scared. I couldn't attend birthing classes. I couldn't see my parents. My baby shower was canceled. I felt robbed of the experiences every mom should have. And then I stressed out of the health of my baby, and I prayed they'd be okay, you know. And then I went into labor at 25 weeks, and I was truly panicked. I was terrified about exposure. So she goes into the babies and how tiny they were. Sophie was just 1 pound, 11 ounces. Patrick was 2 pounds, 8 ounces. And then they were sent right to the NICU and put on ventilators. But here's the key. If it were not for March of Dimes and the people who support them, I don't know what we would have done. March of Dimes has been a savior to us. Our NICU family support coordinator taught us about kangaroo care and gave us all the masks we needed to stay safe. She brought us care packages with tiny onesies and swaddles, books, and even a little stuffed kangaroo, you know, and we enjoy family support. And this is something I loved, and I'd never heard about this before. My babies are still in the NICU, and every night I make sure I sing a lullaby to them that I wrote, thanks to the music therapy program made possible through March of Dimes. And her babies are still in NICU, but this story just really conveys her fear, her anxiety, her hope, and illustrates what March of Dimes is doing to help solve the problem. We're using her story in social and digital. We're using the Zoom interviews so people can tell her story, which was very emotional. And then this is Welcome to the World. So this is Sophie and Patrick, and hopefully they'll be coming home soon. They're doing well. There were a lot of ups and downs, but they're doing okay. Now, we want to say, is COVID messaging always a good thing? Is it always a good thing? Now, we do a lot of DRTV for our clients. So we thought, wow, you know, this is the time when you should do a new spot, work in that COVID messaging. And so for March of Dimes, my goodness, they again funded the research that found the cure for polio. Isn't this relevant? We actually created a fantastic TV spot. We thought it was great. And we actually, the messaging was protect moms and babies from COVID, extremely relevant. And we had a control spot out there with no message of COVID. And then we put this COVID one out. I mean, early on, we produced it very quickly. And I have to say, which one do you think won? And I think if I saw a show of hands, you'd say, well, of course, the COVID messaging one. And you know what? It did not. It did not beat the control, and we pulled it off the air. And what we were learning with DRTV is for some clients, some of the messaging was very effective. For a lot of our clients, we took control spots and we just worked in some COVID messaging, a graphic, for instance, but we didn't overhaul the creative completely. But again, this shows the importance of testing to find out what truly will be a solution. But believe me, if we were betting on this, we'd bet wrong. So moving from there to a veterans organization, this is a package that was done by Resource One fundraising group and Dom Spinoza and his team. And I like it because they came up with an innovative package design for a client that was really relevant, and I thought was very nicely done. It's been mailed now, so I don't have the results, but I just really loved it because it was very engaging and relevant. So for over 75 years, AMVETS has been helping our veterans and their families receive the care they've earned through their service. And using the house file, AMVETS wanted to give their donors a way to say thank you during these challenging times of COVID in a really meaningful way. So Dom's team knows very well that involvement devices like bounce back cards really resonate well with our donors. So they created a bounce back card that allowed the donor to give a veteran something that was useful in the time of COVID-19. So you think, well, what can they possibly put in an envelope that everyone's instantly going to relate to and go, oh, of course, I need that. A veteran could probably need that. It was an antiseptic wipe. That's right. They created a number 10 window, an outer envelope that grabbed the donor's attention right out of the mailbox by showing this antiseptic wipe. And so given the pandemic we all are faced with, we knew this envelope would get open. And it says, say thank you to a veteran. But they knew that they couldn't make this, it's not all about the wipe. You know, it's about how you're helping vets. So he opened by saying, today there's something meaningful you can do to say thank you to all of our veterans who are serving and have served to protect our freedom and have made this country so great. And I realize you're asking yourself, what does that have to do with sending me an antiseptic wipe? Well, as one of our donors, loyal donors, I'd like you to take a minute of your time to explain the impact you'll have on a veteran and the lasting impression you can make when you do send the wipe back. So it's not all about the wipe. It's kind of like, hold on a moment. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing for vets. But we do know that tangible device is going to get a lot of attention in the package. So when Dom and his team devised the response form, what they have done and seen great success is kind of a very simple, oversized reply form that's fully personalized. It makes it very easy for donors to understand what to do. So up in this corner, you know, it's thank you for your support in our local city. And then please return your antiseptic wipe thank you card today. We'll hand deliver it to a veteran at risk. Just follow these simple steps. 1, sign the thank you card. 2, write a message. 3, return the wipe. And then of course, we want you to send your gift as well. And so I wanted to show you what it looks like. So it's a nice card. It's a nice little package. So you make it very easy for the donor. So there's a thank you for your sacrifice and service to our nation. Then you have the opportunity to write your own note. And then the wipe is already affixed to the card. Then the card is sent back to AMVETS and then it's shared with the veteran. So it's a way for the donor to write that thank you message as well as to give them something that's tangible. So I thought that was just an interesting and innovative package, and we look forward to hearing what the results are for this package that we know would definitely get opened during this time. Now, speaking of veterans groups, I wanted to talk about an interesting case for Paralyzed Veterans of America, an organization that helps veterans who have suffered catastrophic injuries during service and after service. And they're an organization that walks alongside vets, not just after they come back from service, but really for the rest of their lives. And veterans right now who are disabled and paralyzed are really suffering. They depend on caregivers who are coming in and out of their homes. Many people have had to say no caregivers, which means that their spouses and their family members are taking care of them. And they're also compromised. Their health is very compromised. And if people are quadriplegics and paraplegics, they have limited lung capacity. So you can imagine the devastating impact if they get COVID. We knew that this was a very urgent story to tell. We knew that we wanted to raise awareness of what PVA was doing to help. We knew that we wanted to raise money during this time. And we thought, you know, what our challenge is the health crisis is escalating across the country. So we wanted to bring the urgent needs of our paralyzed veterans to the forefront, you know, and rally support, let people know that a lot of these vets are really going to suffer and they're going to perish if the lifeline is not kept strong. So, you know, how can we raise brand awareness through this campaign? We came up with an offer, which we at More love to talk about. You can't just ask for a gift. What is your gift going to do? We're going to meet the needs of those who are isolated and cut off from help. We'll make sure that they have food and medicine. We're going to provide financial support to meet their mining expenses. A lot of them, they've lost work. Their businesses have been shut down. PVA is providing some loans for them. And then fighting to get the emergency COVID-19 benefits they are entitled to. A lot of these folks are just worried if there's going to be a hospital bed for them. And one of the vets that we work with, his caregiver did give him COVID. And he did have to go to the hospital. And he was able to get a bed thanks to Paralyzed Veterans of America, and he has survived. But when we were doing these stories, there were folks that we were talking to that were just terrified. So in this campaign, we decided to recommend digital first for the immediate response. So we wanted to highlight the veterans who are most at risk, the most likely to be forgotten, the most likely to suffer and die. But we wanted the vets to tell their story in their own words. And how do you do that? We couldn't get film crews in the home. You know, how in the world we're going to capture these stories? So what we did is we launched a campaign called Stories from the Inside. And what we wanted to do was have these vets tell their stories in their own words. We worked with First Degree, which is our company that does PR and PSAs, as well as TCM, our production company. And what we did is identified, we worked closely with PVA to identify the disabled veterans with the most compelling stories, who would be willing to open up and share their stories on Zoom. And then our producer interviewed many of these veterans to get the video that was needed. And so this is Tanya Meme, our producer for these spots. And so in less than 2 weeks, in less than 14 days, we produced a series of videos featuring a multitude of veterans. We started out with digital, we also did PSA, and we ended up doing DRTV. And these compelling stories provided the foundation for the entire cross-channel campaign. We had Jennifer Steele, who has multiple sclerosis, is a vet in a wheelchair raising a young son. We also had Stan Brown, a quadriplegic who had up to 5 caregivers coming in and out of his house every day. He was just very, very worried about COVID and a very articulate person. And then we had Tom Wheaton, who was a paralyzed veteran on the board of Paralyzed Veterans of America, an amazing spokesperson, who we also used for media tours because he was a great spokesperson, and his presence in the media helped boost response for this campaign. So we served up digital stories, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We targeted to lookalike audiences, delivering up specific stories. This is just, I'll play Jennifer's story.
My name is Jennifer Steele. I'm a U.S. Army vet. I served in Iraq, and I have MS. I'm here at home with my 12-year-old son. I'm in a wheelchair, and I can't leave the house because I have a compromised immune system. It's a really scary time for us. I have to get mandatory infusions, but I'm not supposed to leave my home. My biggest fear is that if I came down with COVID-19 and it didn't kill me, it would cause me further disabilities. My aunt and my sister have come down with symptoms, and I'm afraid. My sister is my best friend in this whole world, and if anything ever happened to her, I'd be lost. it's really important that people don't forget about us right now. I am so grateful for the PVA. They're making sure that we have all of the food and supplies that we need right now. They help us if we need anything. They will be there for us. I want to ask you to please send whatever you can to helppva.org. I can assure you that they are helping veterans just like me.
So, you know, we had these individual stories. Jennifer was very powerful. All of them were. And yes, we created lines that, you know, some of the lines we wanted them to say, like, you can help, but what they were saying from their own hearts was extremely compelling. It was humbling to do these stories. And
I'm Tom Wheaton. I served the U.S.
My name is
Navy
Jennifer
for 2
Steele.
what we did is we drove them to helppva.org. We saw great response. A lot of times with a dedicated URL, you don't see that response, but Help PVA was memorable. So we saw great conversion on this site. And you'll see that we had it's very simple messaging. We need your help during the COVID pandemic. And then we also got a matching challenge. So we were able to put the match in there as well. And then this image was also featured in all of the digital spots. We also decided to, we not only aired PSAs, but we also chose to go out and air spots on linear TV, on a variety of cable networks with the matching grant. Now, mind you, I told you that we started out with a digital campaign, right? We weren't thinking of a TV spot and went, oh, this would be a great TV spot. So we needed a host, and Paralyzed Veterans of America had used Ben Affleck several years ago to host a spot. So we actually went back to Ben and said, could we use your on camera for these spots? And he said, sure. So we were able to wrap Ben Affleck around these stories and create a powerful spot for linear TV. And we used him for PSAs. And then we did also connected TV on Hulu. And as you know, with connected TV, people are not going to call an 800 number. They're not going to necessarily click through the URL. They're going to be delivered a display ad and they click on the ad. So it's not, you know, you're looking at the response that's going to be coming in on the microsite or the donation page. And I'm just going to show you the 60-second spot that we did. I was going to show you the spot. There we go.
I'm Ben Affleck, and I want to thank you for joining me and supporting Paralyzed Veterans of America. Our vets need you.
I'm a quadriplegic. I'm definitely at risk with my diminished lung capacity.
I have MS. I'm in a wheelchair and I can't leave the house because I have a compromised immune system.
So I'm very concerned about, would there be a bed for me? Would there be a ventilator for me? Would I be able to survive something?
It's just heavy. You know, it's a heavy moment. This is a war. This really is.
Our vets need you. Join me with your support.
I am so grateful for the PVA. They're making sure that we have all of the food and supplies that we need right now.
It's with profound gratitude that you're going to be saving our lives.
Thank you. God bless you.
Join me and help fight for them by supporting Paralyzed Veterans of America.
When you give today, your gift will be matched. Call or give now at helppva.org. Thank you for helping us.
Again, we were driving everybody to helppva.org. And although we were only asking for a single gift, we actually saw many people coming on as monthly sustainers, which is really what we want. We also, we did the PSAs, as I mentioned, and we had a satellite media tour where we had Tom Wheaton, that vet that you just saw a moment ago, doing interviews with stations and they were airing across the country. There was the PSA campaign. We had almost 3,800 spots aired. They were national stories. So it was actually this one message, multiple stories, but all of it was under this one message of what PVA was doing to help veterans during this this time of COVID. And then we also, of course, did direct mail, and Caitlin and her team were cranking out the mail. Again, empathetic openings. I know this is a difficult time for you and your loved ones as we all face these unprecedented health crises. And so we talked about the needs of vets. Again, you know, the relevant messaging, the emergency appeal. And the insert here was much simpler, you know, and it had a compelling image and just very simple. They're at risk, please give. We also had a light box, and again, the direct mail insert, emails going out. And then we also featured our stories in our emails. In this case, it was Jennifer, our vet. So we had this integrated messaging throughout. We also had a partnership with Circle TV, which Circle TV, they have broadcast networks, but they also do have streaming. And we were able to partner with them for a special airing of the Grand Ole Opry. So Paralyzed Veterans helped sponsor the Grand Ole Opry concert over Memorial Day weekend. And actually, as part of the lead up, our spots were aired 94 times on Circle TV. Plus, you know, the vets were honored during the special Memorial Day concert. So that was with Stephen Curtis Chapman, Kelly Pickler, Craig Morgan, and Bobby Bones. So, and then there were interviews leading up to this. So there was just this great sense of excitement for the campaign. So to date, almost $600,000 in revenue has been raised above and beyond the normal revenue outside the normal direct mail with the special campaign. About almost 190 million impressions, over $6 million in earned media ad value. And right now, as I mentioned, the ongoing annual sustainer value is over 140,000. And those sustainers are still coming in the door. And we're continuing with some of the storytelling. We have new PSAs going out. We're talking to vets because for them, the situation is actually getting more dire. It's not letting up. So it's not saying COVID, COVID, COVID. It is urgent, urgent, urgent need wrapped around the inability to get out, to feel safe, to not have the proper PPE with the caregivers, et cetera. So we're continuing that story with this organization. Lastly, I wanted to talk about moving from veterans to kids. And I wanted to highlight the Toys for Tots campaign. And Chuck and Julie from CDR worked on this campaign. And it was so interesting, you know, and I was trying to get a hold of Julie or Chuck, and they're like, we can't talk. We're making modifications to so many of our mailings, because everybody knows what it was like. Our mailings were on the press, they're ready to go. What were we gonna do to add messaging? Plus, what were we gonna do to create some new fundraising campaigns? What was interesting is Toys for Tots is, you know, they're a Christmas charity run by the US Marines. And so they provide newly wrapped, you know, new toys to kids at Christmas time. But yet, they knew that the kids that they serve at Christmas were really going to be hurting during the pandemic. So they pivoted quickly and figured out a way to distribute 2 million toys, books, and games to children in need who were home from school and unable to connect with friends. And this was great. They don't do fundraising during this time of the year. And they partnered with Good 360, an organization that partners with nonprofits to distribute all these toys and books. So it was a very interesting partnership. But not only were they distributing during the pandemic and the hot months, we know that the challenge is to replenish the inventory of toys as the year goes on, because with skyrocketing unemployment, the number of families needing help is going to skyrocket. So again, this is normally an organization that's doing fundraising really the last quarter of the year. So we were starting with the messaging back in March. So the donors were provided with multi-channel opportunities to help less fortunate kids at the height of the pandemic. And then this is what I love, is Toys for Tots also ran their first ever Christmas in July campaign, which is going on right now, with plenty of fun and engaging opportunities for kids and families. And it's helping donors understand that they have to refill Santa's bag of toys for Christmas. So this is what's really interesting, is there's a story that's starting and it's going out through the rest of the year. But what I love that CDR did was recognizing that people are exhausted about hearing of the need all the time. And so their engagement opportunities are really quite fun and creative. So with the Good 360 partnership, which I just talked to you about, they're making it possible to distribute the toys and the books to kids. There was a 7 email series. There's a 6 email series for Christmas in July. That might have changed, Chuck and Julie. And then there's social media posts. There's Giving Tuesday post. There's a TV interview with the general. and Good 360. Then there's updated house appeals. And again, it was just a matter of adding sometimes a little message at the top of the letter, or a little buck slip that says, we're thinking about you, we're praying for you. And so it was, again, what's happening out there, adding the messaging, and what new campaigns can we launch. So I thought this was great. This was, you know, children in America need your help now. And then this image of not only our little boy with a mask on, but his teddy bear with a mask on. And you'll see that teddy bear with a mask on appearing a little bit later. I just thought that was great. And so, you know, Toys for Tots is deeply concerned about the impact of COVID-19 on American families. So as you continue to keep your family safe, please know that we're not waiting until Christmas to help families in need during this crisis. Thanks to you, we're taking action right now. So beginning today, with a partnership with Good 360, Toys for Tots will be distributing 2 million books, toys, and games to children whose families who have fallen on difficult times during the pandemic. So with families on lockdown, the gifts we can deliver now will contribute to the well-being and educational development of our nation's most precious resource, our children. They'll give these boys and girls something to smile about in these uncertain times, provide a welcome diversion, help relieve some of their anxiety. You know, and as these gifts make their way to children in need, we'll send you updates so you can come on this amazing journey with us. And then because of this special distribution, Toys for Tots could use your help to replenish our inventory. Please consider donating now. So what I love is, this is the message that's going to be reinforced. And so here's the, you know, the actual challenge, what we're doing now. And what I love is so many of these people, they're writing to our parents, and they know how difficult this is for their own kids. So it's not just the tangible support you're providing, it's the emotional support as well. So this is the direct mail package that was going to be going out to the file. And then what they added was this note right up here. During these uncertain times, we are keeping you and your loved ones in our thoughts and in our prayers. What better message to receive, right? While everybody's pounding you for money, not just in our thoughts, but in our prayers. And then we had another package that went out. It says, you know, Julie, your gift of blank will deliver Christmas joy to a child facing challenging circumstances. But what we did is we addressed the fact that so many Americans like you are pulling together to help each other out. We continue to hold you and our family in our thoughts and prayers. And thanks to your generosity, at the peak of the crisis, we were able to distribute 2 million toys, books, and games to Good 360, who distributed them through the network of nonprofits. So now the challenge is to make sure we can replenish so nobody will be disappointed at Christmas. So constantly reinforcing what we've already done with your money, but teasing what we're about to do as well. And then this was an insert that was put into the direct mail pieces. And so I love this because it speaks to the heart of these folks who are donating to the Marines Toys for Tots. Our Marines live by the motto, Semper Fidelis, which means always faithful, and we never leave anyone behind. That's why with the tremendous sacrifices so many Americans are making today, we're preparing for an increase in the number of families who need our assistance. You can help give these children a message of hope and the Christmas miracles they'll desperately need. Please stay safe and consider making a donation for the children, and thank you. It's, you know, so it's just, we're thinking of you today, not screaming we need help. And so we're teasing, we've got these little stickers that go into our mailing here. And then the message is, you know, again, we've done all this. Now I'm asking you to give whatever you can in anticipation of Christmas. Then this is the Giving Tuesday. I told you the teddy bear and the mask would come back again, and there he is. And so again, the number of children is decreasing. We're counting on supporters like you to help refill Santa's bag of toys. So the season of giving has already started. And I love the imagery of the kids and the little bear, the Marine bear, saying thank you. And then what was interesting for us, and maybe some of you have seen the same thing, it's great to see nonprofits partner together. So in this case, we had 2 of our clients, Marine Toys for Tots, partnered with Good 360, and so did Christian Appalachia Project. And so in social, we were actually able to see to present them working together. Imagine that. Together we are better. And then what CDR has been doing is some great campaigns. This is the Christmas in July campaign. And you know, people are a little bit weary. The kids are at home, and what they've been doing is providing activities, fun Christmas in July activities for children of all ages. So we know that children and families across the country are doing their best to stay home and stay safe. So we've lined up some fun activities for kids from 1 to 92 and beyond. So there's recipes, there's coloring pages, there's mazes, there's word searches, and then in social, we've just got some fun images of what Santa's doing in the summer. So, you know, he's here, he's traveling the world to bring magic, joy, and gifts to little boys. So he's finding his way to keep his reindeer fit for duty. You know, he's walking Dasher on the beach. Look at over here is a nice message about what your gifts have done during COVID. And there's Santa barbecuing. It's a nice relief in the summertime. And there's, you know, but there's Santa with his surfboard priming us for the season coming up. And then again, Christmas in July, I need help from Secret Santas like you. So again, we're reinforcing what they already have done, and we need your help to fill Santa's bag of toys and be a Secret Santa by making a generous donation right now. Now we're in the middle of this campaign, so we can't give you all the results, except we can say for the Giving Tuesday Now campaigns and the toy distribution campaigns, they raised $284,000 during a time frame when Toys for Tots has not done any online fundraising. And then 12 days into the Christmas in July campaign, with the first 2 fundraising emails, they've generated over $45,000 in revenue. And overall, Julie, I think you had mentioned that overall the revenue for Toys for Tots, because of the campaigns during COVID, are really remarkable. I think.
Yeah, for the campaigns that, you know, were featured here kind of from March through June, the response rate is up 12%, which is really remarkable, and revenue is up almost 9%. So keeping it relevant was really key.
And I think what's really nice too is just to measure if people are engaging during the summer as you're providing activities that will benefit them and their family, how that will pay off in the months to come, because people are not going to forget how you were relevant, how you were empathetic, and what you did to help people. So I feel like we're going to see some of the results even happening at the end of the year as they remember how we were actually there for them. Fingers crossed, everyone. Fingers crossed. So that was just some great work, just a little, 5 campaigns from our agencies, and we're constantly figuring out what's next, because there is the great unknown for many of us working with organizations helping provide meals for kids in school. What is school going to look like? For those of us whose organizations rely on walks, that rely on mission trips to go build homes, etc., what's going to happen? So we just wanted to illustrate to you how we were able to, again, pivot, be nimble, produce campaigns, and we have enjoyed as an enterprise sharing our learnings with one another, and we just wanted to share our learnings with you today.
One question that's come in is, let's say you're an organization without a direct tie or even a strong indirect tie to COVID-19. What types of messaging would you recommend going out with right now?
Wow, with no tie at all. That's interesting. It sounds like the organization is not actually providing any benefits to people who are impacted by COVID.
Yeah, let's take as an example an environmental or a conservation organization.
Well, for some of the organizations who are involved in the environment, to be honest with you, some of them have put messaging in there to address the fact that their fundraising has really decreased. There's been an impact on the bottom line, and there's a risk to whether it's the environment, whether it's to animals who really are going to need help. It's more of a little bit of a shortfall, to be honest with you. And that's what I've seen some of the organizations do. Some of the organizations have had a challenge because they've been in face-to-face fundraising. So they were able to present that message face-to-face. And so I'm finding that it's a challenge to just try to be creative, to figure out how to let people know that you need them during this time. But also you have to be thinking about what's going to be ahead. Not what your message is right now, but what is your message going to be in September? Because again, as we saw before, they're going to get tired of just COVID messaging. You have to be relevant and kind of be refreshing, and look at your offer and see what you can do to kind of invigorate that offer.
And I know at least one organization has talked about what its volunteers are doing during COVID and being active there. Chuck?
Yeah, so what I was going to say for that question was very much like Toys for Tots. We have other clients as well. The messaging that we're doing is even for our clients that aren't relevant at this time, you can still be relevant by providing resources to your donors and to those who you're trying to reach. Realize now that, as Lois had mentioned, what schools are going to look like in the fall. Environmental organizations have resources for learning, right? So about tips for nature, tips for learning about trees and leaves and wildlife and things of that nature. So being relevant is not just about the messaging of you in this time of COVID, but making sure that you stay relevant to your donors and provide them with the resources that they need now and maybe need in the fall. So if you're giving back to them now, the reciprocal should be there still when you need them most.
Mm-hmm. There were some, and then Nick too, there were some clients that we worked with that never addressed COVID at all.
And we're successful during the time.
Right, they just said, we're just gonna keep going out with everything. And they didn't change anything. I mean, and some of them actually had cut back on services, but they just didn't tell the donor that yet because they knew that they'd ramp up. And so, but they always referenced the empathy. They always expressed empathy. And then they just moved on and talked about what their normal services are. So.
This may go actually into the next question, which is, any thoughts about how the additional layer of national attention on racial inequities impacts fundraising?
Does anybody else want to take that?
So it's interesting. It's something we're addressing with one of our clients, March of Dimes, but unfortunately we haven't had a chance to actually test that language yet. So I don't have any results to share necessarily, but it is something that we've taken into consideration.
Mm-hmm. But we have done some, we have actually had some messaging going out in our DRTV as well, targeting certain networks, certain audiences with certain messages. So sometimes it's not the same message for everyone. We craft the messaging, but for some of our clients, it's very relevant.
I would say that we're not touching it at the moment, but we are conscious of the language and the expressions that we use. But it seems like such a hot topic that to go out one way or the other is very, very difficult at this of a time.
Then there's another question about the technology that's being used for refer a friend or forward to a friend. And there was an answer on that Marketo can do that, MailChimp can do that. But what do you do if you have a platform that doesn't support kind of that forward to a friend functionality?
Is Mott on the call? I would love to have Mott speak to this.
Mott, can you jump in?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, yeah, you're right. We use that forward to a friend. It's just a code you can put into the email itself for Marketo. Most, I would say, email platforms do provide that. Otherwise, you really are limited to asking them to forward the email to their friends within the email. We've done that too, and it works well too. But from your low cost email providers to the higher cost, you typically have that feature set in there.
Great, thank you, Mott. Another question for COVID messaging: how long do you keep that copy in the materials? COVID's clearly still in the news, but what is the balance for fundraising?
That's a big question. We're finding that we're lightening that copy, and it's almost speaking to the difficult time or the global health crisis. But I think Mott had told me that there was a client he worked with and they wanted to put COVID-19 in every subject line. And you know what happened? The people are like, I can't handle it. When there's an organization that we're working with and they're providing meals for kids in school, you don't have to tell people it's because of COVID. Everybody understands what's happening. You can talk about how school's not going to be the same, or we all know the situation. So I think that we're referencing the fact that it's a difficult time, but for each of the clients, we really discuss exactly how we want to talk about it. For instance, our veterans, you know, it is an ongoing health crisis. It's adding, they already were in crisis. And now this current situation is making it a more deadly situation. So for each of our clients, we really do examine how much we want to speak to that. Even when I looked at Toys for Tots, you know, I noticed that you were using language like it's rising unemployment, right? Kids are at home, kids are going to be in need. So we all know the narrative that's out there in the media. So it's almost like we all are tired of certain words that we're tired of hearing. It's just like, please know that I'm aware. So just tell me how it's relevant and what am I going to do to help. And please thank me for what I've done. Let me know what my gift has done. I think now is a good time to just send a thank you to people. That's it, just a thank you.
Yeah, I was going to add, Lois, that yeah, we did have a client that wanted COVID. He directed COVID language to be put in every subject line. We saw the opens decrease significantly, particularly as the national narrative switched really from COVID to racial injustice and the unrest movements out there. And so we did have a COVID specific email that kind of went right at the beginning of that too, and it bombed. Even though it was a legitimate reason for us to send that, it just did not have the effect that it did early on. So Lois mentioned that there was COVID fatigue, and we really saw that.
I just think also it's important to, Mott, in their times, it's really important to be showing the diversity in our materials. It just is. Our clients are helping people of all colors, with races, all over the country. And so we're very intentional when we're choosing our imagery that we show that diversity. And so if we're targeting, if we're using data, we're knowing exactly who we're going to, yes, we can customize that more, or if we're going with TV messaging, but overall, we just want to, you know, be intentional about remembering who we're talking to, and, you know, and represent exactly how we're helping. And I think it's very important.